This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 172.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 172. And today's special guest is Phil Singleton. Phil will be sharing his entrepreneurial story, how a single website that he made for a client grew into a 7-figure web agency. Really awesome episode. Enjoy it. Hi, Phil, and welcome to the Extra Paycheck Podcast.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks so much for having me. I'm psyched.
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself and what is that you do as a business.
So my name's Phil Singleton. The company I have that kind of has started to pay the bills initially was Kansas City Web Design. So interesting little story there is that I focus on search engine optimization. So you shouldn't be surprised that I named my company after a keyword. But I had kind of an unconventional path to digital marketing. I kind of went to school for finance and business, and I actually ended up getting a D in college in computer science. So it's kind of ironic that I make a pretty good living on computers today. But I rolled out of college after I graduated and actually got a job in computer science. And this is going back more than 20 years ago, so I'm kind of dating myself. But I was really miserable working in a cubicle for a big company, and it didn't take me too long, about 3 or 4 years, to realize that I had to make probably a pretty big change to change the trajectory of my career and I felt like my destiny. So I ended up kind of just packing my bags in my mid-20s and sold everything and moved to Asia. And I moved to Taipei, Taiwan, and I ended up living there altogether about 10 years. And I met my wife, who's also Taiwanese. But long story short there, at the end of my kind of stint in Asia, I actually had a consumer software company basically fall into my lap. This is going back about 15 years ago or so. And it was really interesting because it was the first time that I think I was really introduced to the power of Google and the internet. And I saw that the software that we were selling, a large majority of it was coming from affiliate marketers who basically had their own forums and kind of blog communities and that kind of stuff where they'd put up an advertisement on their website. You'd click through it, come to our website, and we'd end up for the big affiliates, giving them about 50% of the sale. So here I was, a guy running a software company in Asia, and we're writing checks to affiliate marketers for like $50,000 to like $80,000 a month. And I was like, wow, how is this happening? And kind of followed the ROI trail and saw that Google was making a lot of it happen. People were searching for this kind of stuff online, and then they'd come to these content sources and then click through, and that's the affiliate model, and one that still kind of works to some degree today. Of course, it's a lot different now because back then you could pay like 10 cents a click for certain things and make a killing, where Google doesn't quite work like that on the paid stuff now. More like $25 a click for some stuff and more. But yeah, I ended up in 2005. We sold that company. I moved back to the States, and keep in mind I was 35 years old when we moved back from Asia, and I didn't have any type of computer experience in terms of coding or graphic design. But when we did move back to the States with my wife and I to start a family, which was here in Kansas City where I have kind of family roots, I ended up doing one barter deal for a local auto detailer. And I told him I was going to make him a website because I thought he could do a lot better selling $100 car details instead of $25, which he was selling to the auto dealerships, prepping cars for sales, used cars and new cars for sale. He was basically making no money off of it and killing himself. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to build you a website. But, in the back of my head is like, can I really build this guy a website? I know nothing about how to build a website. But I knew that the power of SEO and Google, and I knew that if I could do this, I knew enough about Google at the time where I could probably get them ranked and make a difference. So what I did is I ended up telling him I would do this, and we did a little barter deal. And I ended up spending about 2 or 3 weeks self-studying, trying to figure out a way to make a website. And I failed trying to make one in Dreamweaver, but I ended up successfully doing one in the defunct product that was called Microsoft Front Page, and I ended up making the world's ugliest one-page purple and yellow auto detailing website. And it went up, and about 60 days later, this owner calls me back, and I could basically hear the tears of joy, in his voice. He's like, Phil, I don't know what you've done, but you've changed my business. You've changed my life. And I was like, wow, finally, 35 years old. I know what I want to be when I grow up. Because it was a very professionally rewarding, call, the most rewarding professionally that I've ever had, like in a career. But I was also like, I can make some money off of this. So that's how my kind of career in digital started. It was kind of off one barter deal, kind of pushing the envelope, making a promise I wasn't sure that I could keep to somebody, and then getting it done. And then basically that turned into a few more barter deals, and now I've got a thriving agency where we've literally done hundreds of custom websites, and we've got scores of digital clients, SEO and digital marketing clients that are retainer based, and we've grown into a nice kind of a local boutique agency.
Wow, that's a really cool story with a lot of details, and I like to hear like the whole path how you got to where you got.
Well, so from that piece, that's kind of how the agency started, was really just, like I said, pushing the envelope. And I say this story because, like I say, I'm the poster boy for if he can do it, anybody can do it. Because I'm not like, we get a lot of people these days that are coming out of school. I mean, they're basically like digital natives, right? They've grown up, a lot of people that have, especially in the digital marketing space, have some pretty good skills in graphic design or some basic coding. I knew nothing, in my mid 30s. So, but I learned enough about, had enough common sense, and I was really able to kind of keep, I think, my eye on the ball. So one of the things I think in terms of digital marketing anyway is, not to get so focused on the granular kind of piece of, say putting websites together, just the tactic, and really kind of taking a step back and being, hey, like, what's the purpose of what we're trying to do here? Well, for me, with a finance background, it's, trying to get a return on investment for stuff. So, I look at like websites, web design, any type of digital marketing, and really try and focus on how to turn that into money and the return on investment, versus trying to make, let's say, a website that's more of a digital brochure or a piece of art. So that really put me on the path. So had that kind of trip, through Asia where I kind of grew up, got some confidence, figured, hey, here's a new kind of a business venture I could make. But from 2005, when I basically first built my very first website until now, a lot of things have really changed. So my passion, and what really got me excited about digital marketing in general was how powerful like Google is in the purchase process. So that's always fascinated me, and still to this day, where you can go out and search for things online, and if you're good at it, and you know how to succeed, especially on Google, it's interesting to be able to get people in front of people that want to buy like right now, and then make sales happen. So that's been like the thing that's made me most excited about the space that I'm in. It's just that in order to succeed on Google back then and even today, everything's really kind of come back to your website. So I really consider myself almost kind of basically a web designer to start with, because that's the thing that you need, I think, these days to really succeed. But the true passion is trying to figure out ways to turn those websites into lead generators and sales generators. A lot of it has to do with Google, but the rest of it has to do with integrating the whole rest of your, digital marketing plan. So it comes back to your website in a way that, you can turn into leads and sales. So that was kind of my process, is getting in there, kind of understanding it, little bit of trial and error. A big part of me getting started for my business anyway was, again, doing some of those barter deals, and then turning some of those original customers into very happy clients that would either refer some new business to me, but more importantly, I think just to start to build up a book, right? Because as you go out there, even if you do well in something like social media or Google search, people come back to your website or wherever it is that you are promoting yourself. They really want to see that social proof that you can do what you say, or that you've done work before and succeeded and helped people out. So for me in the very beginning, I saw that was going to be really important. I worked hard to try and get some, referral type clients and some testimonials that then I could then sell against, because once you tell somebody you do something, that's great. But once you can show them that you've done it several times before and have really helped people, that makes a huge difference in getting people to pull the trigger. So, worked really hard in the beginning to get that initial base of clients, and then still, even over time right now, we've got a very disciplined approach to try and make sure that we can document all the successes that we have from our clients. And when clients are happy, we try and make sure that they can, give us reviews and testimonials that we can use to, beef up our social presence on some of the directory sites and places like Google and LinkedIn. And then also like reuse them on our website and other places to show people continually that, we're getting good results. Because then once people hear about you and you come back and have that additional social proof, that really helps. So that's a big part of how kind of I was able to grow this. Our biggest lead source for us to this day is still our own organic. So if you go on Google and type up like Kansas City web design or Kansas City SEO, at least here in my city, we come up number one, top 2 or 3, at least for pretty much any kind of keyword in and around that. So that does help to get the leads in. Then of course you do good work for folks. There's referrals off of that. So our second biggest lead source would be referrals. The third thing, ironically, which has happened over the last 12 months is doing podcasts and being booked on podcasts. I think that's now probably the third biggest referral source that we have, is kind of getting out there, because so many awesome things happen when you get in the podcasting world, right? You get great content, you build your website off, a lot of good things happen with SEO there. It helps build your own personal branding and authority. And that's a lot of the big way that people buy these days, is they want to buy, from people that are proven and have that expertise, and stuff like that. So when you get out there and you're invited as a guest expert on a certain topic, well, that helps to improve the status of your company and your personal brand. And it's really helped me, quite a bit getting out there and do that kind of stuff. So, third big referral source recently, would be getting involved in podcasting. So I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, Alex, because you've got an established show and you do it, I'm sure, partially because you like it a lot, but I'm also sure there's probably other benefits like that as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And, it's, let's say podcasting, it goes both ways, because when I do these episodes with people like you, most people tend to either send out a link to their email list, or, to talk about it on their blog, on their social media. Like they post the link to my blog, or to my podcast page, or directly to my podcast, whether it's on iTunes or any other platform, right? But it's still kind of
awesome.
Yeah, like it's still a benefit. It's like indirect benefit, as in I can't really measure how much money or link juice or whatever you want to call it brings to me, but it certainly is a positive thing for my own business, for my own brand. And well, second of all, just the fact that I get to chat with people like you, hear these kind of stories, get inspired and inspire everyone else listening. As you said, you consider yourself as a poster boy. Like if this guy did it, so can anyone else, right? And I think it's really awesome
Exactly. I want to be inspiring to folks, because I don't want to be like, get out there and beat their chest and say, I'm so great. It wasn't like that for me. I failed pretty hard. Didn't even know what I wanted to do until I got older. And I say this stuff to be inspiring, right? Because it's like, I do feel like if people that get out there and think some of this stuff is so tricky, it's not if you take action.
Yeah, totally agree with you. But Phil, take me back to 2005 when you got that very first client, that barter deal that you had, right? What was going on in your life? You just came back to States. Did you have a job, or was looking for a job, or were you trying to figure out a business that you want to do? Like how did that thought process go in your head at that time?
So I was lucky at that point in that I was able to, before then, make some money through the job that I landed in Taiwan, had for a while. And the fact that when that kind of exited and we sold it, basically, it was a nice payday for me. So I was able to kind of move back to the States, we were able to put some money and buy a house, and that kind of stuff. And I felt like I did have a little bit of a cushion, but it wasn't like, hey, I'm 35 years old, I made enough money to never work again.
Yeah. Right.
So, at first I took it back and I was like, well, maybe I can take it easy for a while, but pretty pretty quickly into the move back from Asia to the States. I got really, I guess, bored and trying to figure out I just can't do this. And I kind of looked around for a little bit, and I was like, I didn't really have a whole lot of skills in terms of being able to, and we didn't have the gig economy like we do right now, where you could go out and find a lot of things. So I think it was kind of just getting started, but it wasn't as hot like it was now in terms of some of these websites that were out there to get extra work. But, for me, it was like I really wanted to figure out what to do for the next chapter of my life, because I knew I wasn't just going to be, at home working on a house type of thing. And I did look around but I was like, quick for a job. And I was like, I just can't see myself working, again, in any type of corporate thing. So real quickly, those kind of job searches online just went like, I know I can't do this. I've got to figure out something where I can kind of, be my own boss and maybe to some extent have a little bit of a, lifestyle type thing where I could work hard, but kind of work my own hours. So I just was looking around, thinking for things to do. And it just like anything I think out there now is, and I think I've gotten better at this with some of these other side gigs and extra things that I use to make even money now. Cause I hate to call myself a serial entrepreneur because I don't really like that term. I think it's kind of cheesy, but I am one of these guys that always am trying to think of stuff. And I've got some things that I've been able to execute, but I also have a lot of some of us have half-built websites that never saw the light of day because I just, had so many great ideas, but never even finished some of them. But that's kind of took me back to 2005 where I was like, well, I knew I want to do this and I want to start it. And I just saw right away, I saw the pain in this guy who'd run this detail shop where he was basically getting beat up. I mean, I literally heard him on the phone. I saw a guy in his shop where, they were just really not treating him very well. It just seemed like he was really struggling just to make what I considered almost nothing on a car. I mean, he was making $25 a car. And I was like, how can that be possible? You guys are putting all this work into it and have this shop. And I know volume was a big part of it, but it still just didn't seem to make sense. And it was kind of at that time where I was like, I didn't really know what to do. I really am interested. I was still hot on SEO and this kind of stuff because I saw the power of it. But I was doing it at the national, basically the global level. And I was thinking at that time, I was like, I could probably apply some of this in a way where I could help somebody out first. Because I saw the opportunity where okay, these guys need this help. But for me, there was still a big gap in terms of skills. I didn't have the ability to make this website that I knew this guy needed. And it was kind of funny because at the time I was still actually I think I did make some phone calls to local agencies and, I asked them about SEO. I asked them about just their availability, and I felt people were kind of either at that time they were either kind of blew me off or I thought, wow, it was really expensive, or I just really couldn't get a conversation going with anybody. And as I was doing a little bit of research and that kind of stuff, I just felt like, you know what, I'm just going to try and do this on my own. And again, it was one of these things where I was like, I knew I was going to be in over my head a little bit, because today you could probably promise somebody to make a website much easier and not worry about it as much because there's tons of places to go to at least get some kind of web presence. Back then it wasn't as easy. I'm sure I could have probably figured it out, but yeah, I was really just kind of figuring out how I could solve somebody's problem and then really trying to solve my problem and trying to figure out how I could solve his problem, because there was that one piece that was really important to that part of it. And once I got that going, and it was a grueling time. I literally was pulling my hair out for at least 2 weeks straight. But I was tenacious, I guess, and very determined to try and figure this out. And that's probably one of my strengths, is that when I get my teeth into something, I really just, don't want to quit on it until I can figure it out. And I did. I kept one on that and I figured that one out. But then I still didn't, I think, realize the power of it until I heard that. I actually heard him telling me that people were calling, he was making money off of that little website that I built. But that's kind of how it started. It was I've got this, I'm sitting here. I was lucky enough, I guess, not to have to worry about, gosh, I've got to do this and figure this out in order to pay the rent type of a thing. But at the same time, I was like, man, I'm a motivated person that wants to get stuff done. Here I am, 35 years old, with really what I felt no technical skills that could carry me, or somebody going to be trying to find me, or very marketable in terms of even being hired as a consultant type of thing. So I kind of just dug in and figured out, yeah, I'm gonna make a path because it was one of these things where I like back in Asia, again, a company basically fell into my lap. So I was able to kind of see from a top level how some of this stuff worked and the amount of money that was like changing hands and stuff. Of course, when it ended, I was like, well, how am I going to, I have no way because I have no skill set to make my way back into that kind of digital thing. And I guess I kind of found my way through this one website project I did. But I got to say, anything that I've done since then has really almost been, anything that's been worthwhile has been kind of, you know, pushing the envelope and saying yes when I felt like I had the confidence to figure it out, but maybe not all the tools in hand to get it done type of a thing. And that's kind of what happened to me, you know, back in 2005.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's really awesome. And it's I like the thought process kind of behind that. And I guess, you know, I'm sure that you didn't realize that was your thought process back then. You just realize it, you know, understand it, looking back at it.
Exactly. Yeah. Looking back, it's always like in hindsight's 20/20. But at that time I was just like, I got to figure something out. I mean, looking back, I think I was probably thinking, geez, I'm 35. So to some people that might seem old. In the grand scheme, it's still pretty young. To not know what your next big career or even what you're doing at that point in life. I mean, it was literally like I had no idea, you know, what I was going to be doing or how I was going to be making money or how I was going to find something that was going to be what I think is more important these days is to find something that you're really passionate about. So I mentioned that first job out of school in an insurance company. Well, I was miserable there in a cubicle. The days went by really long. I watched the clock. You know, it was like overslept because I didn't want to go there, tried to punch out at 5 o'clock or whatever to get out of there as quickly as possible because I just wasn't happy. It wasn't my passion. Well, here now, since that time that I started doing that first website, I probably put in way more time working all the time because I'm really passionate about it. It's what I love, right? It doesn't feel like work. Now, there's certain things where you got to eat glass, you know, and you're not as happy about all the things you got to do, even the things that you're passionate about. But it's way different right now because, I mean, to me, I literally wake up at like 4 o'clock every morning without an alarm because I'm motivated and I'm so happy to kind of, you know, figure out ways to grow or help people out. It's just become a passion. So looking back at that time, I was like, that was the one thing I think that, you know, if I go back and tell myself earlier, here's what you're doing, stay focused on this. This is something that you really love and you're passionate about. That's the most important thing about it. But I think back when you're actually in that time zone, it's just like, what am I going to be doing with the rest of my life? It's more practical. It's like, let's figure something out and do something and find a marketable skill so that you can continue to make money. Because again, I told you I had a nice cushion, but I was like, yeah, we're going to run through this money in the matter of months or years. It's not going to last forever. So got to be thinking ahead, just practically to make sure that we could keep, you know, the ship floating financially over years. But when, you know, going out and I think trying to figure something out and hustle, I ended up hustling my way into what's become, I think, my calling.
Yeah. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And to people listening to this podcast, like don't take Phil as, you know, the only way of doing it. I've had people on this podcast that quit everything and jumped into the business without any savings, without any cushion. And I've had other people that, you know, had a business or previous business or inheritance or whatever worth, you know, like 7 figures. We're going into millions, and only then they would concentrate on their business. So, you know, the stories are very different, and I think there isn't one specific or one safe way of doing it. You know, you could have millions of dollars as a cushion and still completely blow it when you start a business or a business idea and be left with nothing. Or you could start with nothing and grow a multi-million-dollar business. It's really, there isn't only one way.
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. I mean, it's like I was fortunate enough to have a little something to kind of start with, but I think where people have probably had some level of success is that, you know, they either had kind of the discipline or the motivation, but they also probably got really passionate about something too. So same way with maybe some other folks, as they find something, and I mean, some people might actually need to, like, you know, start things because of just as a practical nature, right? I think a lot of really good companies were started like in 2008 when the economy crashed, and they were like, I have no job. I have to figure out a way to rub 2 sticks together and make a fire right now. So some people probably kind of have to get, because that's their motivation to get something started. But a lot of other people that are really entrepreneurs that, I think no matter if they've got money or don't, or different situations, or have a job or don't have a job, a lot of people I think end up finding something that they're really passionate about. Because if you haven't got a great idea, but you don't really like it or you're not really into it, I mean, if your passion burns out, then the chances are you're not going to be wanting to do it for as long as it takes to make it successful. So, my guess is for a lot of people that no matter, if they had no money or some money or inheritance or job or whatever it is, they all probably had some level of passion if they found some entrepreneurial thing that ended up working for them.
Yeah, I agree with you. And one of the examples that I bring up sometimes, many years ago, I started a blog, a website, an affiliate website, actually. And I was trying to sell commercial shredders, right? They're like really expensive shredders. And, writing a single article on the subject was such a pain, and I hated it so much just because it was the most boring thing. And the only reason I thought it would do well because, well, the commissions are high and those products are so expensive that I would make $500, $1,000 commission per sale. But guess what? After struggling for a few months, of course, I've abandoned that website many years ago. And, it was a waste of time in the end. While the other niches that I went for, other industries, because, my main business is affiliate marketing still in 2018, right? But the things that I loved, or the things that succeeded for me, were the things that, as you mentioned, I was passionate about, or at least very, very interested. And, it was a pleasure to do research on those subjects and to create content and to help people find an answer to a problem that they had in that industry. Otherwise, it just, I feel like it's a waste of time, and it's pretty impossible to succeed doing something that you don't like doing or hate doing, especially.
Yes, agreed.
All right, Phil. So back in 2005, you're saying, you did that website for that guy. I guess you did it by yourself. What's going on with you and your agency right now in 2018? Like, how does that work? How does it look? How does it feel?
Yeah, it's great because I've got, we're still kind of a boutique agency. I do have full-time employees and a few full-time contractors as well. And actually have a full-time business development guy. He's basically on commission, but he's essentially part of the family too. But there's a team of 7 of us, and it's good because it's, my world that I'm living in right now, I'm actually, it's nice to try and figure out ways to, and I read this book recently called The $1 Million One-Person Company. So, a lot of this right now is, trying to figure out ways to grow your business, but be conservative enough, because I'm in a space, especially in the agency kind of world where, it's like feast or famine. If you don't have a really good inbound kind of lead generation things, you get a lot of agencies out there that'll get lots of big clients and all of a sudden lose them. And, they got this nice big place, a lot of employees, and all of a sudden they got to shut their doors because it's feast or famine, literally. And they kind of live and die by kind of winning and losing big accounts. So, of course, for us, we're more focused on small businesses. So the deals are smaller, but they're more of them type of a thing. But that's kind of what it looks like right now. We build websites, we fix website problems, and then people kind of hire us to figure out how to turn websites into lead generation platforms. So a big part of the way we deliver stuff is, making that website as good as we can to kind of manage the balance between what Google wants to see and people need to see to convert, but also at least be attractive enough, obviously, to make it look attractive, so people will be, proud of the sites that they have and stuff. And then at the end, when we launch new websites or fix them anyway, we usually power them with some form of like ongoing work, social media, SEO, which in like backlink building and content marketing and reputation management and all these little pieces of the puzzle that Google looks at in order to rank websites and things like that. So that's kind of what our business, looks like right now. It is a little bit interesting though, because when I first got started back in 2005 and was basically a one-man band, Google and the internet was really different because, I could make a website and never really have to talk to my clients in order to get it to rank and help them make the phone ring and get sales and stuff. Because a lot of what was happening on Google back then was, trying to find little loopholes and tricks on your website or getting lots of backlinks pointing to your website, right? So for a long time, in the world of Google, that's really what moved the needle and got you good rankings, is trying to play a cat and mouse game with Google with stuff that's on your website and getting volume based backlinks pointing back to them. Well, about 5 or 6 years ago, Google really changed everything because they updated the algorithms to look at a lot more stuff, and they started to penalize people a lot more for using things that would game the system. So if you're out there buying a bunch of backlinks, well, that could get you in trouble. With these new algorithms that came out, people actually got penalized, and a lot of affiliate marketers got hit back in the day. They would really hit SEO and stuff hard, and they would push the envelope too hard. And all of a sudden, some of these guys that were, making lots of money off affiliate marketing, all of a sudden their websites basically disappeared because of the Panda updated, because of the Penguin update, and that kind of stuff. Well, a lot of us, including myself in this space, ended up getting some of we felt it in some way, shape, or form. So for me, what made a difference was, I'm this kind of introverted guy, and I was making websites kind of in my bat cave at home, not having to talk to people too much. Then all of a sudden, Google starts saying, content is king. We really mean it this time, and all of a sudden they start looking at things like authority and expertise and trustworthiness. And they start looking at lots of different factors around the internet, like social media engagement, participation, and how many reviews you got out there. And is your website growing with good content and blogs and things like even like podcasts and stuff like that. So all these things that they started to look at and count chased guys like myself out of our holes. And out there now we're trying to, do, I think, digital marketing the way it should have been done in the past, which is create good content, educate people, get out there and try and do more content marketing, that kind of stuff. So that's really changed the nature, the business that I was in. Because again, it could have been in the past where people would look for stuff online, hire a web designer, boom. Back in the day, I never had my address on my website. I never had my picture. I never had a blog. It was just a static website. Now it's out there. I've got my own, I've got all this other stuff. I'm writing books. I'm on podcast, this kind of thing. You're really trying to establish yourself as an expert. Well, that's because that's what Google looks at, and that's what people are looking for these days to make decisions, right? So that's changed a lot. It's changed our business a lot. It's changed the way we build websites. It's changed the way that we do marketing in general. Because again, it's all around creating these great websites that become marketing platforms and publishing platforms for businesses, so that people come back to them and they can see, authority and expertise on the website, and they want to engage with it more, and they can see trying to educate. And this is kind of a formula that basically works for everybody. It's not just B2B or B2C and stuff like that. It really helps in a variety of different ways, but it also helps, with where I kind of came from, which is search engine optimization. And that's how it's changed. That's kind of what it looks like right now. So we're always trying to, basically, a lot of things that I do in our agency is I just take the system that's been working for us and for me and try and help other companies essentially market the way I do, right? So I got a website. We blog on it. We create books, ebooks, real paper books on behalf. We've got a podcast. We're out there making sure that we're getting lots of good reviews for our company and documenting. We're participating on social media and building communities. All this kind of stuff that help us kind of build that inbound thing is the same thing that, we're trying to do when we bring new clients on. And it all kind of, to me, the website's the key to everything. Because you don't want to be putting all your best content out on somebody else's platform, right? Yeah. A lot of folks go and put all their very best stuff up on Facebook or up on somewhere else, and they never come back to the website. So it's in social media, you get to see it's got a shelf life of a few minutes or a couple hours, where if it lives on your website, it can be searched and become an answer to somebody's question potentially forever, but it doesn't happen when it's out on somebody else's platform. So that's kind of how our business has changed a lot. It didn't used to be it used to be simple, build a few page website, drive some links to it, stay on top of it, keep doing that kind of stuff, send somebody a bill, make them some money, and then you make some money as well. But now, man, the whole game has changed. And, you asked how our business has changed, and that's a big part of it. I think right now we're basically in the business of making people authority experts and building their personal brands and making their website kind of be the referral source and the hub of all that activity. It's a lot different than the way we used to build websites, 15 years ago or 13 years ago anyway.
Yeah, totally. I agree with you, and I see what you mean. It's really changing. And, to be honest with you, like I did lose some websites to, through those Panda, whatever updates.
We all did.
Yeah, but
You, I mean.
yeah, the good thing is that they weren't like really big earners or anything. They were like really side projects that I didn't care much about. This is why I did test with buying links and doing all this stuff. But some of my best sites, the most profitable ones, I've only done what Google requires people to do now. Like it was only like good content. So they didn't suffer. If anything, they actually like gained some rankings. And I was thinking about it not too long ago, and I'm like, that's a good thing, that it has to be more real, more authentic, more transparent, and I guess just of much higher quality than it used to be. Now we actually, as a consumer, I get much better and higher quality content than I used to get with less effort. When I search something on Google, chances are the top 10 results will be pretty good results compared to even 10 years ago, when you would just get like these really crappy affiliate websites that all they do is, give you links to buy stuff, but you don't get any value out of it. You don't get any information that you're actually looking for. But they would trick the search engines to believe that, yeah, that's quality. That's the answer to the consumer's question. Show them that website.
I totally agree. It was kind of painful when it happened. And I was the same way. I mean, we basically 80% of our book was unchanged by most of them. But, 20% of people getting hit in some way, shape, or form is painful enough. But the problem with what was happening with Google back then was it was getting so mainstream to try and manipulate the search engines that big companies were doing it, like Overstock.com, eBay. There's just a bunch of companies that were out there that were pushing too hard. And I think at some point Google was like, look, we have to change behavior because big companies are starting to do it. And Alex, kind of like you were saying, it's just too much crap was going on the internet, and it's just, so what they did is they ripped the Band-Aid off really hard, and it hurt a lot of people really quickly. But what it did to me, I think, in my mind, was it totally changed behavior.
Yeah.
And like you said, so perfectly, was over time, it's done nothing but help the quality of the internet, because people are spending less time creating crap and creating lots of crappy, backlinks back to stuff, and focusing more on sustainable results, which really means them focusing on their best content and putting their best ideas and stuff out there in a way that's like will last and stand the test of time and stand the test of the next algorithms that they use to close up. So totally agree that it did nothing but help the quality, I think, of the internet overall. But that being said, it was still like a seismic earthquake for a couple of years. Every time they did one of those updates, people were like, am I gonna fall off, the first couple page or whatever into oblivion? But yeah, people, you focus on good content now. It's almost like you don't have to worry about updates anymore. You just keep doing it the right way, because they got like we were talking before, they always used to say that content was king, I think, even in the old way. But everybody kind of snickered and was like, yeah, let's go buy some backlinks. But as soon as they started making those Panda and Penguin and all the subsequent serious updates, you could tell they really meant it, And then once they meant it and they put the bullseye where it should have been the whole time for real, now we're all focused, I think, a bit more on the good stuff and not so much on the shortcuts.
Yeah, totally. Phil, I'm curious if you ever heard this joke. Do you know where to hide a dead body and make sure that no one will ever find it?
The second page of Google.
You know that joke. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, totally. All right, so I guess
punchline, sorry.
No, that's good. I'm happy that you know it. So your agency does not do only local businesses anymore. I guess you're open to the world. You don't just do your city and surrounding towns.
It's what ended up happening is because I bought into like the whole content marketing and holistic marketing plan, I started to do some more things to build my own personal brand. So one of the things that was a big game changer for me is I joined a community called Duct Tape Marketing that's run by this guy, John Jantz, who wrote this book, Duct Tape Marketing. So I did that because there's lots of good places to learn. Because for a long time I just had web design and SEO like blinders on. That's the only thing I focused on. But as soon as I started to see these Google updates, I was like, I got to learn more about all marketing because Google's starting to reach out and count things a lot more. So anyway, I joined this network and the duct tape thing's a lot like some of these other inbound type marketing things where you're trying to get the whole, system in place that reaches out and touches lots of different digital places online. Well, for me, what ended up happening was I started to do more involvement and learn more about marketing. I got involved with this group where, people were really more serious about content marketing and stuff like that. And for me, what I ended up doing was getting involved in a book project with this couple of these guys in this duct tape marketing, kind of like a mastermind group that I was in. And I was invited to do a book, and we wrote a book, the six of us all together. And it was interesting because the first time I joined this group, the very first meeting I went to, one of these other members handed me one of his books, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I hope one day, as a career bucket list thing, I'll be able to have my own book like that and hand it to somebody. Well, here, the same guy invited me on this book project, and 6 months later, I had my first best-selling book. All right, it was called Local Lead Generation. Went up on Amazon, got to leverage this network, sold a bunch of copies, and ended up being a bestseller in the marketing category for a few weeks. Well, that changed everything for me because all of a sudden now I'm doing this personal branding authority. I've got a book now. I started to do more stuff, but I saw some interesting things the way that book project worked because we went out and marketed and got people to give us endorsements. But it was so cool how easy it was to get people that were pretty famous, at least in the digital marketing space, to say, yeah, I'll give you a book blurb and say something nice about your book so you can put it at the front of the book. So the second project I was on was a bigger one, and that's called SEO for Growth. And that one, it wasn't like 6 people got together and write it. This was basically me putting together the manuscript and then pitching this guy, John Jantz, Duct Tape Marketing, getting him to come on as a co-author. Well, that was a big game changer for me because we went in. That still is. It's been an SEO book bestseller for I think almost 2 years straight.
Wow.
I'm up on Amazon, so we've sold a lot of copies of that book. I say a lot. I mean, maybe approaching 20,000, which isn't millions, but it's still a lot for an SEO book.
Yeah.
And that was great because it went out there, helped us establish some stuff, and really opened the doors for me for lots of other opportunities. First of all, the book I got out there got sold around the world. People read it. They come to us sometimes for help. It's helped me get on other podcasts because people say, okay, you read a book, it's a bestseller. I see you're a subject matter expert. Come talk on my show. And the more that I've been able to use that as a platform, the more it's been able to get me in front of people and kind of earn that trust and then get more clients, from other places. So it's been huge. The one problem that I've had is I still, I started this business here in Kansas City as KC web designer, very much trying to dominate my local market. We do have a really good footprint here. Mm-hmm. But as I've done more stuff in my own personal branding and authority and writing books and getting out there, it's tough. It's been tougher for me to sell in some cases outside of our market when people say, oh, Phil, I heard you on, Alex's podcast. That's great. Could you help us out with something? And they come back and, well, I see you're a Kansas City web designer. Do you guys help? It's confusing for folks. So it's interesting. And recently what we've tried to do is actually have a secondary brand now that's a little more less tied to Kansas City. And I think that will help. But you're absolutely right. I mean, doing this kind of stuff, getting out there, opened a ton of doors. I would say a third of our clients now are outside of the Midwest, where we've got them around the world. We've got them in places like Florida and California, this kind of stuff. And it's really helped. I've also done something that it's just really fun. Again, I got a D in computer science, but I've got a couple extra paychecks that come in myself. But one of them is from the book.
Yeah.
Another one is from a plugin that I just made a pro version of about a month ago, and it's called WP SEO Schema. So I've got my own plugin. It's been downloaded, the free version, 150,000 times.
Wow!
But we just did a pro version of it, and it's made us thousands of dollars over the last 30 days or so as we released it. But it's stuff like that. You start building your authority and doing some stuff, and make plugins and build stuff that helps people out. That's helped generate some extra income, but it's also brought people in from other places. And again, it's been just a way to kind of build authority and credibility and leverage that book project And I've got one other one that I've got extra paycheck from. And that is, we talked about this, Alex, at the beginning about how you feel about podcasts, how it's helped you.
Yeah.
It's helped me a ton because, when I go out and do a podcast, and I've been on like 70 of them at least, maybe
wow.
more. It's a great way to go reach new audiences. It's a great way to elevate your authority. It's a great way, as you mentioned, I'm going to go out and you're going to probably have show notes or a transcript on your page.
Yeah.
I'm going to earn a good backlink or two back from it. I'm going to then promote the show in my network and drive a lot of traffic to your website. That's the reason why podcasting works so great, is because you got two people, that get together and introduce each otherselves and then work for the content type of a thing. But that's worked so well for me that I ended up starting another company with John, who I wrote this book with, called Podcast Bookers. And what we do is get people booked on shows after we've helped them, write books and get their website straightened up. So, and the reason we did that is because I've had so much success where I was like, I got to package this up and sell it to other people because it's really helped my business grow, right? So it got in the beginning about telling you how, you got stuff and you set these other projects up, and I've got some things that have been pretty successful, going as offshoots of this one barter website that I started in 2005 is now grown into like multiple businesses. But I also, like a lot of folks might be listening, I've also been guilty of, starting projects and not finishing them. So I halfway joke, I think I did earlier, on saying that I've got a bunch of like half-built websites that are kind of, sitting out on a server somewhere and will never see the light of day because I had this great idea and I got halfway through it and then, there was a flicker of light and another great idea and I went and chased that. But I have been able to finish enough projects that have turned the corner, executed, and actually started to generate, profits of it. But a lot of that has stemmed from, having the right website up and really owning and jumping into this concept of do what you can to go out there and find your passion and make yourself an authority and an expert in whatever that you're trying to do, and build that documentation out there in a way people can see it, and it will open the doors to help you, I think, finish your main opportunity and maybe open doors for other things where you can get extra paychecks down the road as well.
Yeah, really awesome. Smart. Diversifying is very smart. And what I love about, once again, your story is the fact that you just try different things and try things that you haven't done before. And I think simply because it's just interesting to get this new experience, to get a new skill, to discover, a new something. And just, I think it just makes your life more fun and makes your work a lot more enjoyable and, interesting.
And you can't get tied up about lost time into something or even money, because at the end of the day, the success you have financially is kind of a collection of all the failures that you've had and lost money. So it's really just part of your investment.
Yeah.
I think so many people get so caught up and feel bad about losing money on a project or something that they started, but it's just part of your investment into the one that's going to work, is kind of how I look into it. So, that's my only kind of parting piece there. Is I do know some people that always, it's like they try and rally up their failing pieces as something to hold them back. But every time you throw money at something that doesn't work, it's just a stepping stone. As long as you learn from it, then that's just part of the deal.
Yeah, that's great advice and a great way to look at it, Phil. Thank you for sharing that. All right, Phil, as we're approaching the end of this podcast, the end of this episode, where could people go to find out more about you, your company, and maybe hire you?
Appreciate that. Check out kcwebdesigner.com. If for nothing else, just kind of see the little website that could. The other thing that's kind of interesting about my site is actually redesigned at the end of last year based on the Google Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines, which is a document that Google puts out. And that's an interesting side story because they've got like 15,000 people they hire at Google to manually check the search results. So if you Google this term, Google Search Quality Evaluator Guidelines, you can literally download this 160-page document that teaches evaluators how to determine if your website is quality and if they should rank it. Well, yeah. I read that document and I redesigned my website, kcwebdesigner.com, based on what I read in that. And it's really great because they give you very specific things. Like you got to see a phone number, you got to see who wrote it, you got to have enough main content, you want to have testimonials and reviews, all kind of stuff. So check out, if you want to see how to implement that on your site, check out kcwebdesigner.com for that. Podcastbookers.com is that kind of side project that we have in terms of getting people booked on podcasts as guest experts in order to kind of elevate their own authority. And check out SEOforgrowth.com. That's the book that we wrote. We didn't write that as like a sales and marketing book. One of the reasons we wanted to write that was a lot of people come to us and don't have the money to hire an agency. So I'm just like, here's everything that we do. Go do this yourself and you will succeed type of a thing. Because at the end of the day, an agency that knows how to do it's going to probably be able to do it for better, faster, and cheaper. But if you really need to bootstrap it, everything that we do is in that book. And that's, for $9, I think it's a pretty good investment. But that's SEOforgrowth.com. And I appreciate you letting me say that. And if you want to check out, what I'll do, Alex, too, is I've got the plugin, the pro version of our plugin, WP SEO Schema, which enables you to put schema code on your website to help you to get star ratings and search results, or help you out with like voice search and all that kind of stuff. You can get the free version up on WP.org, WordPress.org. But I'll also send you a link to get a 20% discount on the pro version if you like it. Try the free version first to see if you like it first, and if you do, then we'll send you guys. We'll give a link to Alex where you can get a 20% coupon off of that, and check the pro version out. And thanks for letting me pitch those.
All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I'll make sure to put all those links in the show notes page. Phil, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your story, your strategies, your tips, and the story of your business.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Extra Paycheck Podcast. As always, head over to extrapodcast.com/172. This is where I'll be posting the show notes for today's episode. This is where you will be able to find all the resources and other things mentioned in today's episode. Also, head over to extrapodcast.com/Spotify in order to follow the show on Spotify, as well as extrapodcast.com/iTunes in order to subscribe to the show on iTunes. Once again, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll talk to you next Monday.